Hi, my name is Professor Dr. Debarati Halder, and in this session, I'm going to discuss about the basic concepts in victimology and penology. Let us now understand the definitions of victim. A victim is one who has undergone suffering, sacrifice, and also death. Victim and offenders are related terms. That means there may not be a victim until and unless there is an offender. Now, let us understand about the types of victims. There can be crime victims. Crime victims are those victims who have suffered physically, financially, and emotionally some sorts of injury. They may have also suffered some kind of loss of property, and crime as per the laws must have been committed. The another type of victims are victims of abuse of power. These victims may have undergone some sorts of injury by organized powerful forces. These can be violation of national and international standard of policies, conventions, and rights. And these victims may have also undergone some physical, financial, psychological injuries and may have lost property as well. The other sort of victims are general victims. They may have also undergone some sorts of physical, financial, and emotional injuries. They may have also lost properties. They may have been victimized due to natural phenomena committed by any individual or organization, and this may not necessarily be crimes as has been recognized by criminal laws. Contemporary definitions of victims. We will see this from three different aspects. Victims of crimes as per the Declaration of Basic Principles of Justice for victims of crime and abuse of power, victims of abuse of crimes or victims of abuse of power, and victims as per Criminal Procedure Code 1973. As per the Declaration of Basic Principles of Justice for victims of crime and abuse of power, victims means persons who individually or collectively have suffered harm, including physical or mental injury, emotional suffering, economic loss, or substantial impairment of their fundamental rights through acts or omission that are in violation of criminal laws operative within member states, including those laws proscribing criminal abuse of power. That means not only the criminal activities that have been acknowledged as criminal or offences as per the national or international law, but also criminal abuse of power. Victim also means a person under this declaration, regardless of whether the perpetrator is identified, apprehended, prosecuted, or convicted, and regardless of the familial relationship between the perpetrator and the victim. The term victim also includes, where appropriate, the immediate family or dependents of the direct victim and persons who have suffered harm in intervening to assist victims in distress or to prevent victimization, which means it includes the primary victims and the secondary victims, or the direct or and also indirect victims. The provisions contained herein shall be applicable to all, without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, age, language, religion, nationality, political or other opinion, cultural beliefs or practices, property, birth or family status, ethnic or social origin, and disability. This definition, therefore, universal definition of the victims. Now, let us understand what is meant by victims of abuse of power. Victims means persons who individually or collectively have suffered harm, including physical or mental injury, emotional suffering, economic loss, or substantial impairment of their fundamental rights through acts or omissions that do not yet constitute violations of national criminal laws, but of internationally recognized norms related to human rights. Victims as per the Criminal Procedure Code. This has been defined under Section 2WA. It means victim means a person who has suffered any loss or injury caused by reason of the act or omission for which the accused person has been charged, and the expression victim includes his or her guardian or legal heir. As you can see, the CRPC has also taken the concept of victim from the Basic Declaration of Basic Principles of Justice for Victims of Crime and Abuse of Power. Now, let us understand what is an offence and who is an offender. Offence means any act or omission made punishable by any law for the time being in force. Here, act means any act of commission of an offence. Omission means not doing a particular duty that has been recognized as a valid duty under any law existing in the land. For example, omission or not respecting a right of any other individual, trespassing into the land, or, for example, harming bodily another person are all considered as offences. As Section 2N of CRPC decides or says, offence also includes any act in respect of which a complaint be made under Section 20 of the Cattle Trespass Act. Here, we must understand the meaning of complaint. That means complaint may be made to the magistrate, and for Cattle Trespass Act, that means even if it is non-cognizable offence, it still can be considered as an offence. Who is an offender? Offender is one who causes physical, financial, or emotional injury, who breaks the laws. But we must understand that unlike the term victim, offender is not defined under the CRPC or the Criminal Procedure Code. Offender may also mean a person who has been convicted for commission of offence. Now, let us understand the basic definition of victimology. The term victimology has been coined by Benjamin Mendelssohn in 1947. Benjamin Mendelssohn was a defense lawyer and he had coined victimology by his research as what could be the reasons that a victim may attract victimization. Victimology can be defined as victima, which means victim, and logos, which is a Greek term, which means science or the study of any particular knowledge. Therefore, victimology may mean science of victims. There is a difference between criminology and victimology. Victimology necessarily studies about causation of victimization, whereas criminology studies causation of crimes. Victimology discusses about consequences of victimization. Criminology discusses about typology of crimes. Victimology discusses about how the criminal justice system accommodates and assists victims of crimes. Criminology discusses on effective preventive mechanisms of crime. Victimology also discusses about how other factors of the society deal with victims. For example, media. How media deals with victims in the society, how victims may be given proper protection, etc. Therefore, victimology may be discussed in this fashion. It is a scientific study of victims and victimization. It includes victims and offenders. It also includes victims and investigative agencies. It includes victims and courts and/or restorative justice workers. It also includes victims and social reform. Thank you.